very pleasant good evening to everybody, and welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. Just about forgot the name of the show.
Yeah, please don't.
Tells you how discombobulated I've been this week. Anyway, welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. Michael Dale, Rick Petty. Michael on the left, Rick on the right. I don't know, Rick, if we should call this the Ultimate Hockey Show, the Winnipeg Jets in crisis, or if that's going too far. But first off, how was your player / bye week / all-star break for you?
Good. I didn't I don't like we could talk a little bit on the All-Star game if you want. I watched
Nope.
I watched highlights of it on Sports Center, and that was more than enough for me. In fact, more than 5 minutes of it, and I was starting. It was like so much sugar and like I actually needed to take a dose of insulin because it was it's just sugar pop. It's like you say, I like listening to music, and you say, oh, what's your favorite band? You say, oh, I like listening to the Backstreet Boys and to NSYNC. Like that's not, it's music, but it's not real music. It's sugar and spice and everything nice. And it's the same thing as hockey. It's hockey, but it's not real hockey. It's the skills competition was okay. I guess it was exciting because they were shooting for $1 million and the fans got to see the display. So I understand that, but that mini tournament, I don't like it. I get bored out of my mind. I can't watch it. It's not hockey. So I just, for me, I get it. They're promoting the game with lots of fans in areas of the States and Canada where, maybe not so much Canada, but in the States where it's not as well known. It's aimed at the kids, and I get it, but it's of no interest to me at all. So
the best way for me to describe it is it's a benefit to the market in which the game is played, and that's about it.
I could see that. Yep, for sure. And having it in Toronto is great. I mean, the Hockey Hall of Fame is there. There were lots of people that came in, I heard, from out of town. It brought in a lot of visitors into Toronto from across Southern Ontario and even other parts of Canada. And so it was good. Yeah.
But I'm with you, Red. It's not my cup of tea. To me, I would rather watch, 3 or 4 Winnipeg Jets games in the time that they had off. But that's besides the point. They have what they have for a reason, and they have a CBA, and it's got to be in the CBA, and the player break is now mandated. So, not much you can do about that. Biggest news from the Jets before the break or during the break, Rick. Sean Monahan, the newest Winnipeg Jet.
Yeah.
That news actually coming out on Friday. Quick story about this. I was working the tournament at the practice facility of the Winnipeg Jets, and I had to come in early on Friday to do a bunch of tournament setups. And this acquaintance that I know, when I came in the front door, told me, hey, stay glued to your phone. There might be something coming. I said, okay. Wasn't sure what they were referring to. Set up a couple of things that I was setting up, and that's when I know I get the blinker. The Winnipeg Jets have acquired Sean Monahan for a first-round pick and a conditional pick later on, if we win the cup. Now, I've been trying to figure out, does that pick get eliminated if the Winnipeg Jets win the cup, or is that just downgraded? I haven't quite gotten an answer to that. What exactly the condition is on the Sean Monahan trade, but
I think it's no. The way that I read it, the way that it was displayed was it was first round draft pick for Sean Monahan, and a conditional is if the Jets win the Stanley Cup, then they give up that third. Is it a third rounder or fourth? I think
third rounder.
Third rounder. But so if the Jets lose in the Stanley Cup final, then all they lose is the first round pick.
That's the way I understood it, but typically typically they have their ways of working out.
Yep.
This on the heels of Elias Lindholm getting traded from
Yeah.
Calgary to Vancouver, Andre Kuzmenko plus going back to Calgary. We'll talk about this, but Rich, it's just so interesting that two of the pieces that we talked about, as part of having to be moved, maybe or schedule, not where to be moved. You don't have to move guys on expiring deals if you don't want, but two guys that have been on NHL trade radars since maybe a few weeks ago both get moved during the player break, during the All-Star sort of week. Is this teams wanting to get a jump start on getting players acclimated to their team and basically not wait until the deadline to be able to do so?
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Uh, the it's kind of interesting because you're right. It wouldn't be so much the teams acquiring the player, but the teams trading away. Like so, Calgary and Montreal normally, just like in a normal circumstance, the longer the seller waits, you would think the market would be driven up by um, by the time shrinking, right? By the
Right.
it getting closer and closer to the deadline. But then there's the other side, which says not so much for the team that's selling, but for the team that's buying, that says, the team that's buying might say, well, I don't want to give up my first rounder plus, let's say for Kuzmenko and for Monahan, just the first rounder.
Yeah.
Say, I don't want to give that up. I'm going to wait. I don't want to be so strong in acquiring now. I'm going to see how the market plays out. I could always play my card, which is the first rounder, right at the trade deadline. But I don't want to have to do it now. And there might be pressure later, maybe not. So I think it's to both advantage, but I would say it's more to the advantage of the buyers. And I agree with you. I think there's a huge advantage to a player coming in now with 35, 40 games left versus 15 or 20 and being able to get used to the new city and the players and the system and everything and anything, right? Like it'll take time. I mean, the Jets, I don't know if you watched the game last night. I mean, we're
I
going to talk
did.
later, but that was like death warmed over. I mean, the Jets didn't do anything for the first two periods, and then they come on a little bit in the third period, got some shots on net, but no sustained pressure, no push. And it's not like Pittsburgh is this defensive juggernaut. I mean, they got Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang playing D on that team, so they're not a defensive juggernaut. And yet the Jets just looked so anemic when it came to offensive play. So I'm gonna attribute it to a new centerman playing on the second line and to the team being off for a week and a half. But then the other side you could argue is, well, the other team was off for a week and a half too. So, and they looked okay. But mind you, the only thing that the Penguins did that was really great was they scored when Lowry and Morrissey turned over the puck right in front of the net, and then they scored twice in a 5-minute major. So, like, how much sustained pressure and chances did the Penguins have versus the Jets? Probably 5-on-5. I think it was fairly even. So,
But take it out. Take it this way. At 5-on-5, Pittsburgh wins that game 1-0.
Yeah.
Right, and then you did the Shifley goal disallowed. You did a couple of big saves by Tristan Jarry, and that's going to be that.
Yep.
To me, that I'm not in panic mode with this Jets team.
They've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, but it's going to happen. I think if they start losing a couple more in a row, that's where I'll start going, okay, right? But not right now. I still think they're okay where they are for now.
Okay.
I think this team built up such a cushion and such an expectation, Red, that now a 4-game losing streak 0-3-1 in their last 4.
Right.
Seems like a 9-game losing streak.
Yeah.
When in actuality, I think if you're in the middle, almost the middle of February, and this is your first 4-game losing streak all year, I think you've done very well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they're in panic mode. I'm not in panic mode. Certainly not. I'm going to give it some time because this is the first time that they've really been completely healthy as a team. They are completely healthy. And I'm just thinking on who played on the fourth line last night. It was Nemestikov centering Barron and Iafallo, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So then Kapari was a healthy scratch.
Correct.
Wow.
I don't know about you, but that fourth line you just suggested sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Jets will be okay. We got to give them some time. And yeah. So what do you want to talk?
I think here's the problem with it we all need to remember. Kyle Connor coming back off an injury. Mark Scheifele coming back off an injury. Gabriel Velarde's now missed 2 separate stints with injury. And as it was explained to me on the weekend, having watched one of the Jets, actually both of the Jets practices on Sunday and on Monday, which was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
Shout out to the fans that came to the Hockey for All Center to watch. Hockey players are such a creature of habit that if you suddenly don't play hockey for X amount of days, it takes a lot to kind of get back into it. You know, because you're so routine orientated. You go to the rink at this and this time, you practice at this and this time, you eat at this and this time. When you're on Mexican excursion / warm vacation / all-star game, it's very hard to get into that routine when you've been in it for a while. And listen, I don't think the Jets have played poorly in any of their losses. You can make the argument the Toronto game was winnable. The ugly one out of this 0-3-1 run to me, Rick, is the Boston game. As much as that was, 2-1 in the third period, they're right there. But Rick, I have to say this, and I'm going to start using my phone, and I'm going to start banging it to get somebody's attention. The power play needs to get going. This can't be done sustainably at 5-on-5. It just can't. To watch a power play, you might as well just politely decline the power play at this point, if that's even allowed. Because it is nothing.
I would say the special teams in general, if they can play special teams even against other teams in a game, so allow as many power play goals and kill off as many penalties as the other team, and even Steven it up, they win most games because 5-on-5, they're very good. But look at last night. I mean, one awful turnover. I don't know how Lowry
-2 on special teams.
Pardon?
-2 on special teams.
But -2 on special teams. And that penalty kill was just scrambled eggs. Like the Jets, other teams, they're aggressive. They chase the puck down. They force they don't allow the other team to set up. They just push and go after. And the Jets, they got nobody that wants to shoot. The other team puts pressure on the puck wherever they are in the offensive zone. They just don't get anything going. It's awful. It's just awful. And you can't have that many talented players and be that awful. Like maybe, you know what, honestly, maybe they need, because Morrissey, either he doesn't want to shoot or he doesn't like to shoot. I would put Pionk on that first group. He's got a good cannon. He's a hard right shot. Just let him wind up, put 3 guys in front, just have guys go to the net and head for rebounds. Because whatever you're doing now, you're not even getting a shot on net. Like now they pass it around that triangle or hexagon or whatever that shaped thing is that they put around the outside of the offensive zone there, and they just pass it around and pass it on down to the bumper, up and back, into the point, into the other side to Connor and back, and nobody wants to shoot. And then finally, somebody shoots Connor or Ehlers, and it's 50 feet in the air. It's not even anywhere near the net. It's like you're not going to score if you don't hit the net or even come close. Like, get close to the net so that somebody can knock a puck down. I mean, Ehlers comes down, and I like Nick Ehlers, but he comes down on a power play, takes a shot, and he's 6 feet out. I mean, there's guys in front of the net that are going like this. It's like a rocket coming in. It's like, why are you not hitting the net? I mean, maybe shoot a little bit softer. You don't have to blast it. Can you not aim it? I mean,
Yeah.
I pick guys on Monday nights and Friday nights that if you said shoot a hard puck from the point and hit the net, they do it 100 times out of 100. Why can't an NHL guy do it? I mean, come on. I just don't get it. But anyway, that's
You know what? It's interesting because I watched their practice, and they were working on special teams on one of the days,
yeah.
and they're doing everything they're supposed to do in practice. They're just not applying it to the game.
You're saying they're actually shooting in practice?
Yeah, it's maddening. It's maddening to watch.
I understand. If you don't shoot a puck and hit the net in a power play, I make a prediction. You will never score. And I will be 100% in my prediction. If you never shoot and you never hit the net, guaranteed, Rick Penny, guarantee you will never score.
It's like Rusty said.
They pass the puck around. Nobody shoots. Nobody hits the net. It's bewildering to me. I don't get it, but whatever.
It's like Gretzky said, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
And you know what? Considering how bad the power play is now by not shooting, by looking for the perfect pass, or by missing the net, why not try something completely different? Put two guys in front of the net. Put the two guys on the side, and then have one guy at the point at the top, and put two forwards in front of the net, like Lowry and Monahan. Put Scheifele and Connor on the side, and put Morrissey up top. And between Morrissey, Connor, and Scheifele, pass the puck back and forth until you get shots and pound shots at the net, and put Monahan and Lowry in front to block the view and deflect pucks and bang in rebounds. It can't be any worse than what we're doing now, which is zero. I mean, and it would be at least exciting. The fans would say, wow, they actually did something. Yay.
Well,
here's Michael, don't sugarcoat it. It's awful. Here's
the thing, and I hate to sound like Captain Obvious, but Red Bonus, I think, had the line of the night last night when asked about the power play on the post game, and he said it's going to get better. I'm thinking it doesn't get any worse, so it's gotta get better.
Yeah, there's only one way to go when you hit rock bottom, right? That's the
only one way to go up.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about this game, but before we move on, we could talk about the trade, like the Monahan trade, a little bit more detail.
Yeah. What do you think about it?
Pardon?
What do you think about the Monahan trade? I don't think I asked you.
Okay, but are we going to go back to the game later?
Yeah, we'll go back to the game later.
Well, I thought the Lundstrom deal, the Lindstrom deal was very good. Vancouver had to pay a pretty high price, actually, and you could argue maybe potentially a higher price than what the Jets paid because they had to give up a first rounder plus Kuzmenko, who had a great year last year. He's really off this year, but he's a good young player. I mean, he's not old, and he's
a 36 goal scorer last year.
Yeah, he's proven he could score in the NHL. Whether he's got injuries now or he's just not playing with the right people, I don't know. But I'm saying they had a few minor league or younger prospects thrown in too. So I'm just saying, Vancouver had to give up a pretty penny to get him. Calgary did all right. I'm just letting you know, and then for the Jets to give up a first rounder for Monahan, yeah, they're both first, second line centers. I heard guys on radio and on television say Lindholm is more of a first line center, Monahan is more of a second line center. I don't know if I believe that. A lot of it is who you play with, right? Like if
let's do what happened.
Can I finish my point? If Scheifele gets hurt, Monahan slides into the first line center role and he plays with Connor and Velarde, and he's a first line center. And he played first line with the Flames. He played with he played with the Gaudreau.
Gaudreau and Monahan, or Gaudreau and Tkachuk.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, if you play with good players, it's because you're a good player. So I don't know. I like Monahan because he's big, and he's not afraid to go to the net. He's a big cat. He
wins faceoffs. That to me is
Lindholm. Maybe he's a little bit better defensively. It's 6 of 1, half dozen. I don't know if the Jets, where the Jets kind of all in on Lindholm, and then when he got snapped up by Vancouver because Vancouver was willing to give a first rounder and a whole bunch of other stuff, that the Jets said, okay, now we'll settle for plan B, which is Monahan, and we don't have to give up as much. I don't know if that's exactly how it played out. If they wanted Lindholm and they ended up having to settle for Monahan or not, I don't think they'd ever say it. But in my mind, I think Monahan is the better player, especially in the playoffs. He's a big kid. That's who you need in the playoffs to win faceoffs, go to the net, win pucks that are in the corner. Lindholm's okay at that. I don't know how great he is in the playoffs with that type of style of game. I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, that being said, I'm glad the Jets did it. Is it far too much to pay a first rounder? I don't know. It depends. If Monahan signs his new deal with the Jets and they're able to get him for a good price, maybe 3 years, 4 years at $4 to $5 million a year, somewhere in there with the salary cap going up, and that's what they want to do. Okay. Then it's a really great deal. Then it's completely, because you have a first round draft pick. Monahan was a first rounder, 6th overall. So, and now you're gonna, for the Jets, they're probably gonna give up maybe a 20 to 30 pick in the first round because they're gonna end up in the top 10, probably in the league wherever they end up. But so I'm just saying it's not a horrible price to pay. The Jets have picked lots of players in the first round over the last few years, and they're right at that point of coming in. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. If the Jets go really deep, and then Monahan loves being a Winnipeg Jet. He says he loves playing in the Canadian market. That's all he's ever played, was in Calgary and Montreal. And the Jets are able to sign him and they want him. Then I think it's a great trade, and it's no huge burden to pay a first rounder to get a first round guy who's now 8 years down the road and is mature and is in the prime of his career, right? As long as he stays healthy. So how about you? How do you see the trade?
I see it exactly the way you see it. I thought the Jets would be in on Lindholm, and then I saw the price that Vancouver had to pay. Vancouver had to pay to get him. I thought, oh, no. Chevy doesn't make trades like this. I think the one sort of prevailing thought was maybe the biggest deal Chevy's ever made is the Evander Kane trade with all those pieces with Buffalo and Tyler Myers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that might be the most hockey for hockey trade we've seen Chevy make. He rarely ever overpays, and he rarely ever has acquired somebody that's on somebody's radar. See Kevin Hayes, see Paul Stastny, those types of deals.
But here Monahan was on the board though.
Right. But what I'm going to say is he's not going to overpay to get something that he wants. So you're saying that the market, like this is the market. So in the market, general managers of other teams viewed Lindholm as being more valuable and therefore having to give up more to get him versus Monahan. Correct.
But for what reason? Do you know why? I mean, it's not like Lindholm scores more than Monahan.
No, but I think it's just based on track record. Monahan has a history of injuries. Lindholm, going back to even in days in Carolina, was pretty effective. But I just think for whatever reason, more teams that are in on a player, like you said earlier, they drive up the price. It's like an auction, right? Yeah. One bidder puts that up, next die. And then it's like you're going to wait to do it again, right? So it's And then eventually everybody taps out and there's one person left and they said, does anybody else want a match? No? Okay, sold, right?
Yeah,
It's
I think
my
they knew.
dad
Like, I
likes to
think,
let their car auctions. So
yeah,
the trade deadline is like an auction. You have an
yeah.
asset.
I think the Jets, from what I heard, I think they were trying because Chevy kind of hinted. He normally doesn't say even anything close to this, but he kind of hinted in one of the interviews after the trade, where it was kind of like they came in with less. So I think what they may have been doing is trying to do something like packaging up a second rounder with Stanley, or a second rounder with Heinola, or whoever, right? So
Jumping around
somebody,
the edges.
yeah, around the edges, and trying to get Hughes to a bite in Montreal. And I think he always said, I think he sort of conveyed, I always want a first rounder. That's what I want for Sean Monahan. Everything else is noise. And then the writ dropped on Lindholm. Chevy sees what the market is for Lindholm, first rounder plus. You say, okay, Monahan's worth maybe not as much in the whole market. He's worth just a little bit less. So what does that mean? It's a first rounder. And Chevy sort of hinted, as soon as we put the first rounder on the table for Montreal, everything jumped again and everything started. Now, to your point, they could have, like, what's the push Montreal with only the first rounder? It's not like they got a first rounder, and I'm just saying hypothetically, Heinola or Stanley. So they have a player they can plug right into their lineup. There's no push. Like, there's nothing for Montreal to have to make that trade now. Getting a first rounder for Monahan sooner or later, maybe the only thing is he figures, oh, if he's playing, maybe he gets injured between now and the trade deadline, and then he's not
That's exactly what it is, Red.
first rounder. But
That,
I'm
that,
just
that
saying, as
first
soon
rounder
as
might disappear in 2 weeks from now.
yeah, as soon as Chevy said, he sort of said, as soon as we put the first rounder back on the table or put it on the table and kind of up the offer a bit, then that's when the deal happened, which means he must have been, like you say, around the edges up until that, a second rounder and a third rounder mixed with a current player, or a current player and a second rounder, or something, right? So anyway,
Can I ask a question? Because I've been bothered by something here the last week.
what's that?
What do the Winnipeg Jets see in Logan Stanley?
Well, I think they've invested so much into him. They had to, they gave up 2 first rounders to get, or a first rounder and a early second rounder. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe it was even 2 first
They traded up to get him.
Yeah, trade up to, I think they gave away their lower first rounder, maybe 2 lower first rounders to get him. And they always thought having this big defenseman like a Zdeno Chara, or pick your big, or like a Chris Pronger with offensive upside. And then they said, oh, but he's a little bit slow of foot. He's going to grow. You know what? I think, honestly,
And I'm asking seriously because they lost Edwin Chisholm because of it.
yeah, and that's what I think. And Chisholm was good. I saw him play with the Moose. I saw him when he played a couple of times with Winnipeg, whatever it was. He was really good, and he could shoot. He played on the second power play unit ahead of Pionk, because he knows how to. Because he quarterback.
So I'm just asking for a friend, because I tried to have this discussion with somebody on the weekend, and we didn't quite get so far.
Okay, well, I'll get there. So here's my point with it, is that they've invested too much in Stanley to cut bait yet. I don't think he's 25 yet. I think he's 24, 23 or 24.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with the team 5 or 6 years. This might be a 6th year since he was drafted. I think he was drafted maybe 2017, 2018. Might be 2018, actually. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's 2018. So anyway, so you're in. He's a 24-year-old. He's played sporadically. He's been injured. I think, and this is my point, we've talked about this before, if Logan Stanley was, pick your team, Montreal, he would be playing every game, because he's as good as, if not better than, who they that Johnny Kovacevic there or whatever that they lost to Montreal. He's better than him. And Kovacic is just playing on the third pairing in Montreal all the time. Like he's played the whole season since he got picked up. So I'm just saying, Logan Stanley, he's against here in Winnipeg. We've got all these defensemen. You and I have talked about this. You got Morrissey, and then you have a little bit of a drop, and then you've got like Morrissey would be a 1B defenseman. I wouldn't say he's a 1A like a Makar or a Trouba or I don't know who else you could put in there, but I would say he's like a 1B. He's pretty good, but I still wouldn't
He's
say
not your franchise altering defenseman.
like he's not a right-hand shooting first pairing defenseman. So he's a 1B. So you got Morrissey, and then you got a whole bunch of 2 and 3s, a whole bunch there. DeMello, Schmidt, Dillon, Pionk, and they're all good defense. They're all serviceable, but all those guys, in my mind, for most teams, would be a third pairing. They would all be third pairings, but they're playing a little bit above, but they're all good. They're not great, but they're good. And so Stanley, he's not a superstar. How is he going to push Pionk or Dillon or Schmidt or actually Sandberg? I would even put as a 1B. I put Sandberg right after Morrissey. To me, he's the second best defenseman on the Jets, and probably third would be Brendan Dillon for other reasons. But anyway, I'm just saying Stanley, he's not got an opportunity because there's too much of a logjam ahead of him. And if I was Shovel Dayhoff, what I would do is I would cut bait with some of these veterans and I would start playing my young guys, especially after this year. Like if they don't win the Stanley Cup, they try and they don't get anywhere. For me, I would say goodbye to Schmidt and
DeMello.
And DeMello. Yeah, maybe DeMello's good. But for sure, Schmidt, and I would let Stanley play. And I don't care if he's on the third pairing. He's playing. He needs to play against NHL players besides practice in order to be an NHL defenseman. We get snippets of him. He plays for 2 games and, he makes a mistake. And suddenly, Stanley, he's useless. Yeah, okay, but he never plays. He never gets a chance. Remember how it was with Ehlers and all the young Connor? And Maurice came in and they said, we're going young. We're going to allow him to make mistakes and we're going to let him grow together. The only way you get to be a pro is by playing as a pro at the pro level, at the NHL level. So that's my take on it. Is Stanley, there's a door that he cannot push through, and it's because of opportunity. But if he was with, you pick any other team if he was with Montreal, if he was with Columbus, if he was with, pick any lower level team, Anaheim, San Jose, Ottawa, and you go down the list of all the teams that are out of the playoffs right now, the bottom 15 teams, any of those teams, and probably even some teams that are in playoff positions, Stanley could make that lineup. The problem is there's so many 2 and 3s ahead of him. Who is he going to push out as a second or third pairing defenseman to now go in as a second or third pairing defenseman? That's the problem. So, but anyway, that's how I see it.
Yeah, it's very interesting for me. I feel the same.
He's going to get his
chance. I just can't help but feel a Johnny Kovacevic situation happening with that one, Chisholm. But the verdict still, I guess, needs to be decided.
Is he playing regularly with the Wild?
Yeah, I'm not sure the Wild have played out of their break yet. So,
okay.
We're about to find out. I was pretty disappointed, to be honest, but we lost that one. Chisholm. The other news, the Jets had to put Ato Jansen-Fialbi on waivers to make room for Mark Scheifele. He cleared and has been assigned to the Manitoba Moose. That was the corresponding roster move. And I'm assuming that when David Gustafsson is active, that is the end of Dominic Toninato, who was practicing as the 8th defenseman on Sunday and Monday.
Yep. Right, because they're still carrying as their their scratches or the Black Aces, they're carrying Kupari. They got Stanley, Heinola, Gustafsson. There's a lot of players.
Roster logistics. You can only carry so many players up to the deadline, and then it's to your salary cap. So
3.
Yeah, and then it's to your salary cap after that.
Most teams carry a pair of forwards and one defenseman because of the numbers. There's 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. But some teams like the Jets for a lot of the year carried a pair of defensemen and one forward. But either way, you can only have 23 players on your active roster at the NHL level. So
yeah. Just a thought on the Brendan Dillon situation and the hit yesterday.
yeah.
Do you have a
You
thought?
want my take? You want my take?
Sure.
We talked about this, and this is, and people are going to listen to this and say, you know what? He's a relic. He's from an age where guys got their heads taken off and players weren't protected and da 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 da.
Hey, Rich, are you okay talking for a minute? I just have to step out for a minute.
Sure. I have no problem with player protection. I have no problem with players being protected from potential CTE down the road and head injuries and all these different things. But you know what? It's the same thing with Kyle Connor. Was an example, although I don't know how much he got away, but players that try to avoid hits as opposed to taking the hit, they avoid the hit. And by trying to avoid the hit, they put themselves in a more vulnerable position and cause more damage to themselves than just taking the hit. If you look at that play, and again, the refs go back and they watch the videotape, and I'm okay with looking at videotape. I get it why we do it for offsides and for other things, but the game is played at full speed. Brendan Dillon, if you watch what happens, Brendan Dillon is in sort of a little scrum with some guys right at the blue line. He sees is it Achiari? I forget how to pronounce his name, but anyway, the guy from the Penguins coming up that side, coming up the left side of the boards. He's coming with a full head of steam. He's a little bit shorter. Brendan Dillon is 6'3". This guy's like 5'11", 6 feet. And he's hunched over. He's low. He's reaching for the puck. He's scooting through. Brendan Dillon, all Brendan Dillon does is comes along the board because he sees him coming, and he's pinching him off, and he's going to hit him. Brendan Dillon does not jump. He does not lift his elbow. He does not lift his shoulder. He does not even stick his leg out. None of that. All he does is he goes up against the boards, turns, and puts his shoulder, which they're supposed to do, to put the hit into the other player. The other player goes like this and tries to avoid it, and he ducks down because he's low. And if you played hockey, you're low and you're scooting by. He tries to avoid. He doesn't want to hit Brandon straight on because then he's going to get his bell rung. So he tries to move out of the way, shifts his head. Brendan Dillon doesn't go like this and try to stick his elbow out. He doesn't move his shoulder. He stays in the same position the whole way, going to the boards. He's skating to the boards, looking like that, and waiting to take the hit. This kid tries to dive out of the way, gets caught in the head with the shoulder, and they call it an intentional hit to the head. Garbage. That is an absolute garbage, worst call. And I'd say the same thing if it was, pick your guy. Who would be a big defenseman? If it was Giordano lining up Ehlers. Ehlers is coming through the zone, and Giordano goes like that, and Ehlers wiggles his way, and then he gets knalled in the head because he's trying to avoid the hit. What is the kid's name again? Is it Achiari? Achiari? I think it was. You're on mute. You're on mute.
That'll help.
Is it Achiari or Achiari? Is that his name?
Sorry?
The guy from the Penguins, Achiari, or what is his name?
Achari. He used to play for the Blues and then the Leafs last year.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is that hit, him getting hurt with a concussion or getting knalled in the head, does not happen if he goes straight into that body check and he takes it like a man. He tries to avoid it. Brendan Dillon does not try to make contact. All he's trying to do is line him up. And he doesn't jump. He's bigger. He doesn't, if a guy skates into me with his head first and throws his head into my shoulder. How is that my intentional hit to the head?
Oh.
It's a garbage call. And people can say what they want. I watched that tape 50 ways to Sunday. I watched the game. I repeated it. They showed it from every angle.
Breaking
Brandon
news
Dillon,
here, Rich. I'm going to cut you off for a minute.
Don't tell me that Brandon Dillon's now suspended for 10 games. I'm going to throw up on my computer if you tell me that.
3 games. Just came
Really?
in now. Yeah.
He's been suspended for 3 games.
Been suspended for 3 games. That's coming down 35 seconds
Garbage.
ago.
That is, the NHL is a joke. That's a joke. Absolute garbage. Shame on them. Shame on them. Garbage. Does the player who gets hit have no responsibility? So he could do whatever he wants. He could throw himself into a guy, go ahead first. The guy tries to line him up with the body, and I throw my head. I'm going in. Oh, and I try to avoid him, and I get hit with the head, and it's the other guy's fault. Joke. Absolute joke.
It's unbelievable. You should see the comment on this thread about this suspension.
It's a joke.
Just to read a couple.
Okay.
Clean. Why? Completely clean hit. Free him. Absolute garbage.
Yeah. It is. It's a terrible, and I get it. The kid got hit in the head. I get it. I feel bad for him. But again, the question I would give to NHL and to George Peros or whoever's doing this nonsense is there any, if I'm trying to hit a guy and I don't do anything wrong in terms of trying to hit to the head, I'm trying to line up the body, and the player that comes at me moves and puts his head first into me, how is that my fault? How am I supposed to change what I'm doing in order to avoid that? What's the answer to that question? There is none. And that's why
I'm gonna have to fire up the suspension video with the explanation from the Department of Player Safety once we get off in about 15 minutes.
And Michael, I want to say something. If Brandon Dillon had gone like this, right? Like put up a chicken wing.
100%, I agree.
Or exactly. Or if he'd stuck his knee out, or if he had jumped in the air to crank him and to use all that body momentum, I would say, you know what? That's not right. Brandon Dillon should have been thrown out of the game and whatever. But for what happened, that's not right.
Yeah, I don't know it. 1 or 2 games for me if you really want to suspend the guy, but 3, come on.
Well, you know what the upside is, though? We're probably going to see Logan Stanley. So
there you go, right?
Yeah.
Things have a roundabout way of working out.
Yep.
Edmonton Oilers, 16-game losing streak, kaput last night to the Vegas Golden Knights in what I thought was a great game. Edmonton Oilers got goalie by Aiden Hill. Where did the Oilers go from here?
Well, they're still a good team. I think they're still going to be in the playoffs as a 3rd seed or a wild card. I don't know if they can push anybody above them out of the way, even if they would play.
Well, they got 5 games in hand on Vegas, and they're set to bat. So
yeah, but I mean, between like who's ahead of them? Vegas, Vancouver. Edmonton would be in the 3rd place right now?
Sorry?
Edmonton is in 3rd place in their division,
yes.
behind Vancouver and Las Vegas. Okay.
So, behind Las Vegas, and then the team I'm still trying to figure out even today, the Vancouver Canucks, who just keep winning at a rate, but I can't.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Figure out.
Yeah.
Another question just off of that, Rick. I know we're a month away from the deadline, give or take. Who needs to make a move at the trade deadline to improve, in your mind?
Oh, like besides the Jets themselves? Like who needs
like take the Jets out of it. Who most needs to make a move to get better?
To get better, or to get better, or like to sort of to get ready for the playoff push, so to speak.
Or who acquiring one thing would sort of push their team over the top in your mind?
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I think Toronto, they still need something. I'm just not sure what Toronto needs.
I'm not sure how they can do it, to be honest.
I think, you would think that like they really needed to add on their bottom six, and they did that with players like Nyes and Domi and some of the other players they have. I think maybe they could add on the defensive side. Maybe they have to add a defenseman, Toronto, because I just don't think they have enough right now to be in it. And then like a team like the Bruins, it's kind of interesting. I thought for sure the Bruins. I mean, yeah, they have their system. They lost both Bergeron and not Pastor. Who did they lose besides Bergeron?
Bergeron and Krejci.
And Krejci to retirement, two centermen. And so they've just kind of played a mishmash with Charlie Coyle and Morgan Nagiki and kind of made it happen. But I thought for sure the Bruins, especially in the position they're in, and they're in a playoff spot, and they have a really good team, that they would push to get Lindholm. I thought for sure Lindholm would be an acquisition for the Bruins.
A lovely listener has sent me the Cold Notes version of what's in the video. The Department of Player Safety, and to paraphrase, says that Dillon finishes a hard, high hit that misses Accardi's core, making the head the main point of contact on a hit where such head contact was avoidable. Garbage explanation.
It's 100% garbage. If you come in like this and you put your head in first, you're going to get hit.
So if I'm a player, okay, and I'm skating with the puck, I'm free to put my head down because apparently I have no responsibility.
Yeah. That's what it is. He had his head down and he wasn't looking. He saw it at the last minute, but you're stick handling, you're hustling. When you're skating hard, you're leaned over. So your head is in front. You have to be responsible for your head.
This makes the Brendan Smith hit on Connor Bedard look even more of a joke for no suspension, the one that broke Bedard's jaw.
Yep.
If you're going to nail Dillon for 3 games.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it, and I think player safety needs to take a long, hard look. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Jets fan. Let's be clear. Department of Player Safety has been consistently inconsistent, and it's like they pick their favorites. And whatever they decide, they just spin a wheel and say you get 3 games on this day. I give up. I give up trying to figure that out. Case closed.
He says they say, he hit in the head when it could have been avoided, and that the head would not be the first point of contact. Well, the problem is and this is, I don't get it because I'm not stupid. I can watch the videotape and see the guy's head is leaned over. But I'm saying when I'm coming, like the game is fast. You've been to games. I've been to games. I played, but I don't play at the speed that the NHL players do. But I'm saying guys are coming in on you. You're a defenseman. You got to make really quick decisions. But what am I going to do? Am I going to play him? Am I going to play the body? Am I going to pinch him off? Am I going to try and hit him with the stick and try to knock the puck off his stick? How am I going to do this? And in this situation, Brendan Dillon sees him coming. He's coming along the edge. Dillon says, he's kind of pinched in the corner. I got to stop his momentum. I'm going to hit him. So he goes skating up to hit him. Brendan Dillon does not know if Acciari is skating like this, and then right at the last second, he sees Dillon coming, and then he goes, like this, and then he tries to duck to maneuver out of the way, and he puts his head down, and then he gets cranked in the head. How is that Brendan Dillon's fault? That's the problem I have with this. What can Brendan Dillon cannot, if he chooses to hit Acciari in that situation, and Acciari puts his head down and leads with his chin, how does Brendan Dillon avoid that? He doesn't.
Here's the other thing. Comment from a Winnipeg media personality who shall remain nameless said this. Wow, good to know and fair enough. Now let's chat from behind and Nick Cousins. ...
I know. It's to me, it's you know what it is too often, Michael, is it's a reactionary thing. It's like if Brendan Dillon goes and does the exact same thing, and Achari, he doesn't at the last minute put his head down and try to bob and weave out of the way, and he takes it like a man. He's skating up the thing, goes, oh, wow, look out. And then Brendan Dillon's there and he gets cranked and he gets hit and he gets with his body. And Brendan Dillon's in the exact same position. And he gets cranked in the body, and he gets knocked out, but he gets knocked off the puck, whatever. It's the end of the story. This is a result of what happened to Achari. And to me, that's wrong. If you're giving out penalties and suspensions according to what happens to the player as a result of the play, then the whole system is junk. It's garbage. Like I said,
another thing,
and I'm on quote, they could play this wherever you want. You can play this at head office. It's garbage. The player has the responsibility to protect himself as well. And again, I am not saying it because I'm a Winnipegger, because if it was the exact opposite, and if it was Ehlers doing the exact same thing, and Giordano did the exact same thing to Ehlers, I'd say it's Ehlers' fault, because he's doing it and he's making himself exposed to the situation. In this case, there's nothing that Brendan Dillon did that was wrong. He didn't put out a chicken wing. He didn't put out a leg. He didn't jump. He didn't even lean. He didn't even put like when he saw him coming, he didn't go, oh, his head's going down, and then go and try to put his shoulder down and into the kid. He was straight up the whole time if you see the videotape. And that's what bothers me. What is Brendan Dillon supposed to do completely or other than what he did and not have the same thing happen? So I blame it. This is 100% on the injured player. It's not on the player that threw the body check. I'm sorry. Even if he gets his bell rung, even if he gets hit in the head, even if he gets a bloody nose, it's unfortunate, but take the hit like a man. Don't try to bob and weave out of the last minute with your head and lead with your head, and then everyone's all upset because it's a shot to the head. That it's garbage. I'm going to say it again. The NHL, this call is garbage, 100%. And I would say it if it was the opposite with Giordano and Ehlers or any other two teams with any other two players. It's garbage. And I said it enough times, garbage it is. That's it. Okay. We got only about another 5 minutes or so, maybe even less. Yeah, 4 minutes.
Yeah. So what are you looking for this week? Obviously without Brendan Dillon.
Well, the Jets play. Are we going to do a show on Monday again?
Yep. Monday.
Okay.
Monday, so that should be at the end of the. I believe they play San Jose on Monday, so 5:30 on Monday.
No, they play San Jose on Wednesday. They play at Philadelphia and then at home to the Penguins on Saturday.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a game on Monday for some bizarre reason.
There is not according to my schedule. So,
okay.
Yeah. So home and away, Philadelphia, or away and home, Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh. Yeah, right now the way they're playing, I don't know. You know what? Yeah, they got to score some goals. It's that simple. I mean, they still play well defensively. In the games that they lost, it's not like they played horribly defensively. They just didn't score when they had their chances. So, they need to score. But I think they're going to go 1-1. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to lose to Philadelphia. Maybe they'll make it close. So as long as they score some goals, maybe lose 4-3 in Philadelphia and then win at home against the Penguins. So I'm going to go 1-1 because that's all we're going to get between now and our next show. How about for you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they go 1-1. I think they beat the Penguins but lose to the Flyers.
Okay.
Close games, but they won't be able to get it done. One thing quickly I want to mention as well, there are bad tensions between the Arizona Coyotes and their ownership. Sportsnet Elliot Friedman writing, and I quote, "I think we're coming to the end of the line with this ownership group. I believe if there isn't something hard and fast in place in the very near future, they will begin the process of selling the team or the NHL taking over the team and selling it to someone else.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe we will get there. I believe the reasons you will hear the commissioner say nothing negative about them is this could end up in a big legal fight, and he doesn't want to say or do anything that will end up being used against them. But the circus continues with the Arizona Coyotes. I can't believe it. I can't get over it. It hasn't. It's been a charade since 2008.
Yep.
Put an end to the misery or figure it out. One or the other.
I know. It's just like that old analogy. They keep forcing a round peg into a square hole just over and over and over again.
And it won't happen. Anyway, we're back next Monday. We'll be back at, let's say, 5 o'clock on Monday. Yeah, it'll be 5 or 6 o'clock on Monday. Got a couple things on the goal here, but I have to attend to.
Okay.
But of course, and then the big CFL free agency show on Tuesday as well. So the big news, if you missed it, Brendan Dillon did in 3 games for the hit that I had. Noah McCarty will miss tomorrow night's game in Philadelphia, Saturday's game against the Penguins, and next Wednesday's game against the Sharks.
Yep.
We're Petty, Michael Justin. Have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. It's been the Osmond Hardy Show. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great week. Bye for now.